I study rap battles for a living.
This ain't just another rap beef aftermath. This is war between Drake and the very empire that helped build him. After getting cooked in one of the most brutal lyrical battles hip-hop ever seen, Drake ain't just licking his wounds, he's swinging back with lawyers. And the target? Universal Music Group. Yeah, the label giant that practically prints money off his name. But now, the same machine that helped him run the charts for over a decade is trying to shut him down, legally, publicly, and permanently. Let's rewind real quick. Kendrick Lamar lit the whole game on fire with Like That, taking direct shots at Drake and J. Cole. That verse set off an avalanche, and Drake tried to fire back with Push-Ups, Family Matters, and later The Heart Part 6. But by the time Kendrick dropped Euphoria and then Not Like Us, the damage was already done. The internet crowned a new king, and Drake looked shook for the first time in his career. But instead of letting the beef stay on wax, Drake made it personal, started calling out media outlets, started hinting at defamation, and then boom, dude filed a lawsuit. That move right there, it flipped everything. Suddenly, we wasn't just talking bars, we talking legal threats, corporate politics, and a fight that could shape the future of how rappers even go at each other. And UMG, they weren't gonna sit back and take it. They dropped a full 30-page response to Drake's legal action, and let me tell you, they didn't hold back. They came with receipts, strategy, and savage professionalism. This ain't just business, it's a public takedown of the very artists they helped put on top. First off, UMG basically said Drake's lawsuit is a joke. They're pushing for the whole thing to be dismissed, saying Drake willingly engaged in the beef, played the same dirty games, and now he mad because he lost. They even pulled quotes straight from Family Matters and tailor-made freestyle to prove that Drake was just as ruthless. You can't drop bars about a man's family, accuse him of being an unfit father, and then cry foul when the other side fires back with venom. UMG said, this ain't defamation, it's hip-hop. And the way they laid it out, cold, calculated. UMG brought up how diss records have always been part of rap's DNA, from Nas versus Jay-Z to Ice Cube versus NWA, even all the way back to KRS-One and MC Shan. They said if Drake wins this case, it'll set a dangerous precedent where rappers can't clap back without fear of lawsuits. Basically, Drake's trying to change the rules of a game he used to dominate, just because he ain't got the upper hand anymore. But here's where it gets real sticky. UMG didn't just defend Kendrick, they flipped the script on Drake entirely. They said Drake's own history of controversial bars is what makes this whole case so hypocritical. They referenced his Pusha T beef, where he exposed a whole secret child. They mentioned how he clowned Megan Thee Stallion, threw shots at Rihanna's past, and used lyrics to target Serena Williams' husband. All that's fair game, but when Kendrick comes back with his own heat, now it's too far. UMG basically told the court Drake's the last person who should be playing victim. And it ain't just about lyrics. UMG pointed out how Drake used media manipulation to sway the narrative, how he leaked DMs, made strategic posts, and planted subtle messages to make Kendrick look unstable. But Kendrick ain't play that game. He kept it on wax and won with bars. And now, instead of taking that L in silence, Drake's trying to weaponize the legal system to control how people talk about him. That's what UMG's saying. That this case is about ego, not defamation. They even questioned Drake's motives straight up. Is this really about damage or just damage control? Because let's be honest, Drake didn't start complaining until Not Like Us went viral, until people started questioning his legacy, until the headlines flipped from GOAT to washed. That track didn't just trend, it shattered the image Drake been building since 2009. Suddenly, the certified lover boy looked like a certified loser. And the only way out? Sue the machine. And look, the timing ain't random. Drake's deal with UMG is massive. We talking hundreds of millions. And insiders say that since the beef, he's been more isolated than ever, pulling out of shows, delaying drops, even cutting ties with longtime collaborators behind closed doors. The pressure is getting to him. He's never lost this publicly before. The ghostwriting scandal with Meek, he bounced back. The beef with Pusha bruised him, but he survived. But this Kendrick clash, it exposed a crack that lawyers can't patch up, and you know the industry's watching this like hawks. If Drake wins, that means artists can sue over lyrics they don't like. That means every battle becomes a legal minefield. And if that happens, rap as we know it dies. UMG made that clear. They said they ain't just fighting for Kendrick. They fighting for the culture, for free speech, for the right to throw lyrical punches without ending up in court. And that argument, it's powerful. What makes this even more crazy is that Drake's fan base ain't even fully behind him right now. A chunk of his own people think he's playing this all wrong. Instead of clapping back with stronger music, he went straight to litigation. Instead of owning the loss, he playing the victim. And while his lawyers throw legal jargon around, Kendrick's team staying silent and celebrating. Even some of Drake's industry allies, they real quiet lately, because nobody wants to pick a side when the lawsuits start flying. So the question is, how far is Drake really gonna push this? Is he trying to cancel diss culture, rewrite hip-hop rules, or is this just a desperate move to protect what's left of his image? Whatever it is, one thing's clear. This beef ain't over. It just moved to the courtroom. So now that the paperwork's flying and the internet's buzzing, you gotta ask, why would Drake take it this far? What's he really trying to protect? It ain't just about lyrics, it's about legacy. Drake spent over a decade building a bulletproof image. Chart topper, ladies' man, global icon. But Kendrick ain't just diss him, he dismantled him, layer by layer. You ain't no Michael Jackson, you ain't no Prince. That wasn't just a bar, that was character assassination. And it worked. People been side-eyeing Drake ever since, so now he trying to hit back in a way that says, I'm still in control. But here's the thing, Drake been playing both sides of the game for too long. One minute he's the emotional poet, crying over heartbreaks. Next minute he's the savage, throwing subs and exposing dirt. And when it worked big, but now that it backfired, he trying to say the game's unfair. UMG said that loud in their response. Drake don't get to set the rules, break them, then cry when someone else beats him at his own playbook. They brought up how he clowned Childish Gambino's This Is America during a tour stop, calling it overrated, how he laughed at Megan Thee Stallion's trauma in Circo Loco, how he downplayed Rihanna's abuse history and lyrics in interviews. This ain't a clean player we talking about. This is a dude who knew how to cut deep and smile through it. But the second that blade cuts him, he want courts and sympathy. UMG said, nah, bruh, you gotta hold that. And behind the scenes, this lawsuit got A-list ripple effects. You got artists who wanted to collab with Drake now hesitant, managers checking contracts, PR teams scrubbing old tweets. Because if this lawsuit becomes a W for Drake, the industry shifts overnight. Disses become lawsuits, shade becomes slander, even comedic jabs on a record could become evidence. Nobody wants that, especially in a genre built on tension, rivalry, and storytelling. And UMG knows this. That's why they not just defending themselves, they fighting for the whole structure. Let's talk about the Kendrick side for a sec. What's wild is Kendrick never responded legally. He ain't tweet no shade, he ain't go on interviews crying foul. He let the music talk. And that silence, that's what's making Drake look even more defensive. Kendrick dropped Not Like Us and dipped. Didn't chase charts, didn't explain metaphors, just let it marinate. And the streets decided it was a classic takedown, a modern day ether. And when the culture rules that you lost, no amount of legal paperwork can flip that. Meanwhile, Drake's legal team out here saying Kendrick's diss was so damaging it intentionally harmed his career. But the question becomes, was it the diss or the truth in the diss? Because let's keep it real. Not Like Us went viral not just because of the beat, but because people felt it. They believed it. When Kendrick said he got security for security and trying to make the black woman the villain, the culture nodded. And that's what hurt. Not the bar, but the belief. And it don't stop there. UMG also hinted that Drake's lawsuit ain't just about Kendrick. It's a strategy to regain control of his public image. They said Drake's been making moves to reshape how the media talks about him. From pulling strings with blog sites to steering narratives through podcasts and press leaks, he's been working overtime to clean up the mess Kendrick left behind. And this lawsuit, that's part of the cleanup crew. But here's the danger in all this. Drake might be setting himself up for an even bigger loss. Because if the court sides with UMG, that means everything he cried about gets thrown out, and his rep takes a bigger hit than it already has. People gonna say, not only did Kendrick kill you on the mic, but the courts laughed you out the room. That's 2 L's. And in this game, public perception is everything. One major blow, you bounce back, 2 in a row, you start slipping out the GOAT conversation. And remember, this ain't just about rap, this about power. UMG is one of the most powerful forces in music. They control catalogs, influence platforms, and shape artists' visibility. When you beef with UMG, you beefing with the plug. And that's why people surprised Drake took it there. Either he's bold or he's desperate, maybe both. Because if you bite the hand that fed you, you better be ready to eat alone. And there's a deeper convo here. What happens when rap beef turns corporate? Back in the day, battles stayed on wax. Jay versus Nas, 50 versus Jay, nobody was trying to sue. They let the music do the talking. But now we got one of the biggest artists in the world trying to fight bars with a judge's gavel. That's uncharted territory. If this becomes the norm, we might be watching the death of authentic rap rivalries. And honestly, that's terrifying. Let's not forget the fans. They tired too. Some been riding with Drake since Take Care. They defended the ghostwriting scandal, stood behind him after Pusha aired out his kid, even clapped back at yeah, but now they quiet. Some even jumping ship, saying this whole legal drama feels like a cop-out. Like Drake's trying to erase the L instead of wearing it, and in a culture where accountability is king, that silence from his own supporters, it's louder than Kendrick's entire discography. So now we sitting in the middle of a lawsuit that's about way more than defamation. It's about control, culture, ego, and the rules of the game. Drake says he was slandered. UMG says it's just bars. The fans say, we saw what we saw. And hip-hop, it's holding its breath, waiting to see what comes next. All right, so now we deep into the chaos, and one thing's crystal clear, Drake messed with the wrong monster. UMG ain't just a label, they the muscle behind damn near half the music biz, and now they treating Drake like an outsider. That cozy artist-label relationship, it's over. What used to be mutual benefit now looking like open warfare. And when a label starts dropping 30-page legal clapbacks instead of protecting their biggest asset, that's a loud signal to the whole industry. They done riding for Drake. And you gotta wonder, what happened behind the scenes to make UMG flip like this? Word on the street is, after Kendrick's Not Like Us turned into a cultural earthquake, Drake didn't just lose momentum, he lost leverage. Executives started whispering. Big brands started hesitating. DSPs stopped boosting his singles. Even OVO insiders allegedly started distancing themselves from the Kendrick beef aftermath. Drake thought he was untouchable, but when you beef with someone who don't play your game and wins on their own rules, that's when the empire you built starts looking shaky. And here's the killer part. UMG isn't even fully defending Kendrick because they love him. They doing it because they gotta protect the culture that feeds their empire. If Kendrick's diss bars can be labeled defamation, then what's stopping every label from getting sued every time a rapper throws a shot? UMG said it clear. If Drake wins, it'll change hip-hop forever, and not in a good way. We ain't talking about a minor lawsuit, we talking about a case that could censor rap as a genre. They brought up old battles like Ice Cube's No Vaseline, Common Verses. Drake himself, Jay-Z's Takeover, even Game's disrespectful lines over the years, and none of those sparked lawsuits. Why? Because in hip-hop, battle bars are tradition. You say what you say. The crowd decides who won, but Drake, he took it outside the ring. And now UMG's saying if he wins, every rapper gonna need a lawyer before they pick up a pen. But even deeper than all that, UMG basically saying Drake's acting like a hypocrite. Let's not forget, he been dishing for years. He exposed Meek's career collapse with back-to-back. He made fun of Pusha T's braids and even tossed sneaky jabs at Kanye's family. But now he crying foul? UMG threw all those moments into the court filing like, don't forget who started this. They flipped the entire narrative. Drake ain't the victim, he's the initiator. And that's why this whole case feels so heavy. It ain't just about who's right, it's about who's more wrong. And right now, from a legal standpoint, UMG is painting Drake as the sore loser who's trying to weaponize the system because he caught the biggest L of his career. It's like somebody losing a street fight, then calling the cops after. That don't fly in the rap world, and UMG know that. They want the judge to know it too. Meanwhile, Drake's been quiet, real quiet. No new music, no bold tweets, just vague posts and subtle moves. And that silence, it's got the internet humming. Some say he's strategizing. Others say he's rebranding. But a growing number think he's tucking his tail, regrouping after taking the kind of loss that don't just bruise you. It rewrites your story. Because now when people talk Drake, they don't talk Scorpion or Nothing Was the Same. They talk Not Like Us. They talk Kendrick. They talk lawsuits. It's a legacy shift, and it's happening in real time. Let's not act like this ain't impacting the fans either. Hip-hop heads been divided since day one. You got diehard Drake stans still riding no matter what, saying Kendrick's attacks went too far. But then you got real culture purists who feel like Drake brought this on himself. They say he been playing puppet master for years, dissing under his breath, using media plants and steering narratives behind the scenes. But Kendrick, he ain't play by them rules. He stepped into the ring, dropped the gloves, and threw haymakers without blinking. And when that connected, the crowd roared. Now there's a new problem brewing. Industry censorship. Labels and lawyers are watching this case like it's a Supreme Court hearing. Some already warning artists not to go too far in beefs. PR teams pushing back against spicy bars. Contracts being reviewed with clauses about reputation damage. And that's wild because it means one dude's ego might have triggered a domino effect that changes how hip-hop breathes. If that ain't ironic, I don't know what is. And then you gotta consider the global impact. Drake's an international figure. He ain't just Toronto anymore. He's Dubai, London, Paris, all of that. His lawsuit ain't just being followed in the US. It's being analyzed by global markets. And UMG knows that. If they don't win this, other countries might use it as a blueprint to clamp down on offensive music. That's why their defense is bigger than just Kendrick. They fighting for the genre across borders. You think labels overseas want rappers saying real stuff if it means getting sued by the artist who gets cooked? Nah, this could set back lyrical freedom across the whole game. And ironically, the guy who made his name off sneak disses, subliminals, and shady bars might be the one who breaks the freedom he once thrived in. Even some OGs been speaking out. Folks like Joe Budden, who ain't shy when it comes to calling out Drake, been saying this lawsuit is weak. That if you get dissed in hip-hop, you respond with music, not motions. Some even said Drake should have dropped a tape, not a subpoena. But instead, we get silence from the sixth god and loud laughter from the culture that used to crown him every time he dropped. So what's next? What happens if UMG wins? What happens if Drake loses? Either way, rap's never gonna be the same. This ain't about two artists anymore. It's about whether battle rap even has a place in a sanitized, lawsuit-filled industry. And if we gotta pick sides, a lot of folks leaning toward the side that still believes in bars over contracts. So here we are, the final stretch in a saga that started with bars and turned into a courtroom chess match. Drake, one of the most calculated artists in hip-hop history, is now caught in the biggest mess of his career. And it ain't from a diss track, it's from his own reaction to one. Instead of bouncing back with a classic, he went corporate. Instead of clapping back on wax, he hired attorneys. And now, the label that once fed his whole machine is trying to shut him down like he's just another liability. But the real plot twist, the culture moved on without him. Kendrick ain't say a word after Not Like Us. He ain't pop up on IG, he ain't do a single podcast, and he definitely ain't file no lawsuits. Yet, his presence still looms. He let his pen do all the talking. That's why fans crowned him, not just for what he said, but how he said it and how he let it breathe. Meanwhile, Drake's legal antics turned the biggest rap clash of the decade into an awkward silence. Instead of beef, we got briefs. Instead of fire, we got filings. And UMG's still pressing hard. That 30-page dismissal wasn't just legal talk, it was a warning shot. They basically told the court, if this stands, say goodbye to hip-hop as we know it. And they're right. Look around. Rappers already getting cautious. Bars are watered down. Writers are second-guessing punchlines. Ain't nobody trying to end up in court because they said someone fell off. And all that started with one man who didn't like how bad he lost in a battle he helped ignite. Think about the irony. Drake made a career off slick talk and sneak disses. His rise was fueled by calculated shade. He built a persona that thrived on mystery, masculinity, and emotional warfare through lyrics. But the second someone outbarred him, outclassed him, he folded. And not only did he fold, he tried to rewrite the rules for everybody else. He basically said, if I can't win, let's change the game. That ain't competition, that's manipulation. And now the whispers inside the industry are getting louder. Folks saying this is Drake's post-peak era, that the lawsuit marks a shift, not just for him, but for hip-hop's balance of power. We already saw Cole back out. We saw the stream slow. We watched Kendrick go quiet and still run the conversation. It's like Drake became a victim of the very strategy he used to win for years. His ghostwriting scandal didn't kill him. His beef with Ye didn't derail him. But this Kendrick clash, it hit different. It wasn't just a bar war. It was a reputation funeral. Even the fans who used to ride for him no matter what, they starting to sound different. They ain't posting Drake the GOAT anymore. They posting Drake fell off. He went out sad. He lost the culture. And that's the dagger. Because you can drop another platinum album, you can sell out a world tour. But when the streets stop feeling you, that's a loss no numbers can fix. And what about the future? Let's say UMG wins this case. They get the defamation tossed, and the court rules that diss records are protected under free speech. Cool, that'll save the culture. But it'll leave Drake looking even worse. He'll look like the superstar who tried to shut down battle rap because he got cooked. Labels will still make money off him, sure, but the respect, that's gone. No award, no record, no cosign can bring that back. On the flip side, if Drake somehow wins, that's worse. Because then every rapper from underground to mainstream gonna have to second guess every bar. We're gonna see diss tracks replaced with PR statements. We're gonna get aggressive metaphors turned into filtered pop lyrics. The danger, the honesty, the rawness of hip-hop, all watered down in legal fear. And if that happens, Drake didn't just lose a battle, he killed the very culture that made him. And let's be honest, no artist should have that power. This whole thing became bigger than Kendrick versus Drake. It became bigger than the music. It turned into a war about authenticity versus appearance, about artistry versus ego. Kendrick kept it real. Drake tried to keep it controlled. And now, the truth's been exposed. You can't buy back the culture once it walks away. You can't sue your way back into respect. And you sure as hell can't rewrite history once the people decide it. In the end, Drake might still have millions of fans. He'll still top charts. He'll still sell shoes, fragrances, merch. But the moment he walked into that courtroom instead of the studio, that was the day he stopped being feared in hip-hop. That was the day the sixth god became just another brand protecting its image. And that image, it ain't never gonna be the same. So next time somebody asks who really won the Kendrick versus Drake battle, don't point to charts or streams or lawsuits. Point to silence. Point to the fact that Kendrick walked away untouched while Drake kept talking. Point to the way the culture reacted. Because when the smoke clears and the last headline fades, only one thing really matters: who they believe. And right now, they believe Kendrick.